Welcome, everybody. We are thrilled to have you here for this really interesting and informative session that I personally am very much looking forward to. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Rachel Justice, and along with Jillian Levinson, I co-lead Woman to Woman. And we are thrilled to have a very, very wonderful speaker back yet again with us, Annika Gagia. I probably butchered your last name as I usually do. Is a great member of our community who's always willing to share her expertise with us. And today we're going to be talking about Power Up with Protein. Really learning about what protein, it's kind of such a buzzword these days, what the implications are of that, especially as gynecologic cancer patients. Do you need to make the disclaimer again that this is more general information? And if you have any questions specific to your situation, that you should always reach out to your medical team and ask them directly, especially before changing anything, even about your diet. And obviously, anytime you're thinking of changing, adding in any supplements or stuff like that. Not that we're necessarily talking about that today, but always check with your team first. But Annika, thank you so much for coming back again. As I said, your presentations are always so informative, helpful, relevant, and we know you put a ton of work into them. So we really appreciate you being here with us today.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. I will go ahead and share my screen. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with me today. My name is Annika, and I'm a volunteer here at Mount Sinai. A little bit about myself. I'm currently getting my master's in clinical nutrition at NYIT, and I'm excited to share with you all today the incredible benefits of protein, especially during and after cancer treatment. And I know that many of you are navigating complex treatment plans, dietary changes, and questions about how to stay strong and nourished. So today's session is designed to empower you with practical, evidence-based insights. I also want to remind everyone that nutrition is very individual. So while we'll cover some general guidelines and findings that I've found while researching, please check with your doctor or dietitian. And I'm not fully a nutritionist right now, but I will be next year. So let's get started. So before we dive into details, let's take a look at what we'll cover today. First, we'll talk about protein's role in the body, why it's so important for health, especially when facing or recovering from cancer treatment. Then we'll discuss how much protein you need and how these needs might change. We'll also look at some excellent protein sources, both animal and plant-based. We'll talk about timing and when you should time your protein intake and also why that matters. And after that, I'll share some key research studies I found while building this presentation that show how protein can help preserve muscle strength. And after that, we'll end with some practical meal tips, recipes, budget-friendly ideas slash snack ideas, and concepts that you can put into practice every day. Now, beginning with protein's role in the body, proteins are essential for almost every function in our body. They make up about 75% of the dry weight of most human tissues, excluding bones and fat. So that means that if you removed all of the water from your muscles, organs, and soft tissues, 3/4 of what's left would be protein. And this was one of the most interesting facts that I came across while researching the topic. And also proteins are building blocks of our bodies. They build and repair muscles, they keep our immune system strong, they help produce hormones and enzymes, and they support our body's way of healing. And for patients undergoing cancer treatment, protein is very important because treatments such as chemotherapy can break down muscle tissue, and they can also cause unintentional weight loss. Our bodies rely on 9 essential amino acids. There's 21 in total, and in case anybody recognizes the 9 essential ones, they are histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, tryptophan, and valine. This may ring a bell. You may have seen these on vitamin or like nutrition contents or in the nutrition marketing world. So those are the 9 essential amino acids that we need from our diets because our bodies cannot synthesize them on our own. Leucine in particular has been shown to stimulate muscle protein synthesis, which is very vital for retaining and maintaining our muscle. Protein also plays a critical role in the immune system, something that's especially relevant during cancer treatment. Proteins are involved in producing antibodies and they help fight infections. So this means that adequate protein intake is really important because it supports your body's ability to heal and also just to fight off illnesses and protect itself. And so with many treatments affecting and also potentially weakening our immune system, it's really important that we keep our bodies as strong and healthy as they can be by including enough protein in our diet to help us stay really strong and healthy throughout the process. I think one of the common questions that people have and that I myself had while researching this topic was how much protein do you really need? There's so many different types of recommendations, and because everything is so individualized, it's hard to really find the right answer, but there are general guidelines. And obviously protein needs vary by age, activity level, and overall health. But for example, after age of 40 or 50, many people naturally start to lose muscle mass. This process is called sarcopenia. And this is also relevant for cancer survivors who might experience muscle loss during treatment. So in order to help retain and maintain our muscle mass, that's one of the reasons why protein is so essential. For the average adult, the general recommendation is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. And that's for an adult who lives a mostly sedentary lifestyle. So that's about 55 grams per day for a 150-pound person. And for older adults, there's actually a increase in the recommended protein intake to 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram. And if people are living a more active lifestyle, there is a higher recommended intake as explained by people who exercise regularly. And when it comes to meeting your protein needs, it's also really important to focus on whole foods rather than supplements. So whole foods are important because they are not only providing protein, but they're also providing important nutrients that really help our bodies stay strong. And so on this slide, I listed out a few healthy protein options that I found listed in a research study that include egg whites, fish, seafood, lean meats, low-fat dairy, and plant sources. And speaking of healthy food options, I also wanted to talk about seafood benefits in terms of protein. So seafood deserves a special mention. Fish like salmon, trout, and sardines are high in omega-3 fatty acids, which support heart health and also may reduce inflammation. The American Heart Association recommends at least 2 servings of fish per week. And it's also important to keep in mind that it's wise to choose fish that are low in mercury when eating it regularly. So trying to avoid larger fish where you have a high mercury content. So one of the common questions that I think comes up when people talk about protein is when to eat protein. Is it something that we should eat in the morning and then maybe have our biggest protein intake in the beginning of the day and then slowly decrease it? Or should we have it equally sparsed out throughout every meal? And so what I found is that timing does matter. Research shows that spreading your protein intake throughout the day really helps maintain muscle mass. And I found a recommended guideline for 15 to 30 grams at each meal rather than saving it all for one meal. So for example, like for breakfast, it could be helpful to try eggs or Greek yogurt. And at lunch, maybe a tuna salad sandwich or lentil soup, and dinner, like a tofu stir fry or lean meat. So when we're balancing all of our protein out throughout the meals, that's more effective than eating a lot of protein at like one meal. And eating more than maybe like 40 grams of protein at one time, according to research, does not seem to offer extra benefits. And so that's why it's better to spread it all out. And it's also important to remember that whole foods provide more nutrients than just protein. They come with vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, which all emphasize the importance of balance. One of the research studies that I came across that was really important and caught my eye was a recent systematic review that looked at protein intake in cancer patients with a high risk of muscle loss. Specifically, the patients in this study had head and neck and lung and esophageal cancers, but overall, the review found that patients eating less than 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight tended to lose muscle, even if they technically met the recommended intake. In contrast, those eating more than 1.4 grams per kilogram were able to maintain muscle during treatment. So this study suggests that higher protein intake is really important, especially during treatments, for maintaining strength through different therapies. Another systematic review that caught my eye was one that analyzed the impact of high protein supplementation. So with different treatments leading to symptoms such as weight loss, muscle weakness, and this review pulled data from 35 randomized trials with over 3,700 patients, and they found that patients receiving high protein supplements lost less weight, specifically 1.45 kilograms, less weight on average than those who did not. Muscle strength improved in all of the high quality studies with people supplementing with protein. No serious side effects were reported, and ultimately this shows that the high protein supplementation can be a safe and effective way to support our bodies and our strength and our muscle, even our immune system during treatments. And along the lines of protein supplementation, I wanted to just cover the basics of it because there's so many options when it comes to taking protein powders, supplements, that it can get really difficult to navigate, like what you should look for in a protein supplement. So basically, protein supplementation is especially helpful for people who struggle to meet their protein needs through food alone. Protein powders overall are very convenient and fast-acting mechanisms to support our tissue repair, production of important hormones and enzymes, and supporting our muscle growth. There's different types of protein powders, and common ones include whey, casein, soy, pea, hemp, and egg-based options. Some of you may have seen whey protein around, and whey protein is actually the most popular because it's a complete protein that's easy to absorb for our bodies. But for like people who have like a lactose intolerance, soy and pea protein are also great options too. And it's also important to note that protein powders are not regulated by the FDA, which is something that I learned while building this presentation. So it's really important to choose a reputable brand and avoid contaminants like heavy metals, because that can appear in some protein brands. And it's also important to keep in mind that when thinking about protein supplementation, taking too much protein doesn't necessarily provide extra benefits and sometimes can strain our bodies with the excess of protein. And then lastly, while protein powders are very convenient, they should complement a balanced diet rich in whole foods that have protein, as we've discussed, like lean meats, fish, dairy, legumes, nuts, and seeds. Because the protein supplementation, usually these powders don't have the many vitamins and minerals that we can get from the whole foods that contain protein. So now that we've talked about the general benefits of protein powders, I wanted to have a little bit of a breakdown on how to or on key considerations and how to choose a protein powder or go about navigating one. It's really good to look out for protein supplementation options that have complete proteins like whey, casein, or soy. These contain all essential amino acids that our bodies need for muscle building and recovery. And I chose two popular picks that I found that include Optimum Nutrition Whey Protein, which is a good all-around source, and Orgain Organic Plant-Based Protein, which is actually the one that I take. And I've also been super cautious about looking at the ingredients. That's really important to keep in mind when choosing a protein powder. And now to go over the difference between protein powders and whole foods, I wanted to include a slide that compares both of them, and not just the nutrition content, but also in terms of how quickly they're absorbed. This was new to me when I was researching this for the presentation. I didn't know the importance of thinking about the rate of absorption. So on the left, we have protein powders, especially whey, are known for fast absorption. So that makes them really useful right after a workout or for immediate repair for our bodies, repairing our bodies. And they're also convenient, but they also may lack important nutrients. And in contrast to these powders, whole foods such as eggs, chicken, and tofu digest more slowly. And the slower digestion helps with fullness, appetite control, and they contain a broader range of nutrients and encourage mindful eating. And in terms of the chart on the right, on the left column, there's the protein sources with the different rates of absorption. And you can see how much these really deviate, and this affects our satiety, our fullness. So that's also important to keep in mind too when consuming a protein powder. Next, I wanted to share some practical tips for adding in more protein to our meals throughout the day. Choosing lean meats like skinless chicken breast, lean ground beef, or pork can help you get high quality protein without too much saturated fat. Fish and seafood are really great options, and they also have omega-3s in terms of salmon. For plant-based proteins, it's important to prioritize beans, lentils, tofu. These really add a great extra protein boost. Dairy products such as Greek yogurt and cottage cheese are very protein rich. And having one protein source per every meal is really helpful to keep a very balanced check. These are two graphics that I thought would be really helpful. In terms of prioritizing protein at every single meal, it can be a little difficult sometimes to get a gauge on the actual portion size and also the amount of protein in specific servings. Apologies if the text is small, but on the right-hand side, I included a visual hand guide to portion sizes, which is super helpful because sometimes when we see these recommendations for a 3-ounce serving of salmon as a great option for protein, it's hard to actually know what that size is. And so this graphic shows us a helpful comparison to the size of our palm. And on the left, this chart has a lot of different options that are plant-based, the nuts and seeds options, and meat options. I found this chart to be super helpful in terms of like giving us a great visual aid and also incorporating detail for like how much protein is in a cup of plain Greek yogurt. And also just to break down the visual hand size. So while our palm represents the 3 to 4 ounces of like meat and tofu, that's a standard serving size. Our fist represents about 1 cup, and that is great for estimating veggies or grains. Our thumb is about 1 tablespoon, and that's helpful for thinking about the serving size of nut butter, salad dressing. And a fingertip is about 1 teaspoon, and that is helpful when thinking about adding oils or spreads. So this is a simple, practical tool to help visualize balanced meals, especially like in a very just easy way to remember with our hands. Next, I wanted to share some budget-friendly protein tips. I typically buy dried beans and lentils in bulk, and also like canned fish. Usually sardines are really great. They're one of my favorite types of easy snacks because 1 can of sardines usually has 22 grams of protein, which is a lot. And I usually make this into a little sardine dip where I take the sardines, I mash them, I add in a lot of labneh, I mix that together, and I sprinkle in dill and chop up some cucumbers sometimes, and then add a little bit of like lemon, salt, and pepper. And for people who don't like the taste or smell of sardines, it really does go away with like labneh. Sometimes I'll substitute the labneh for Greek yogurt and cottage cheese. And it's a great texture. You can add in a little bit of like crunch with the cucumbers. Sometimes I'll add in chopped tomatoes and onions. So this is a really easy like way to get in a lot of protein, especially because like sardines are often sold like in bulk. So it's really a great, easy, convenient way. I also wanted to share some recipes and ideas for like different meals throughout the day. Like for breakfast, it's obviously eggs are a great breakfast idea. You can make them into different ways, variety. Greek yogurt is a really good idea. For lunch, I usually tend to go for like beans. So sometimes I'll make like a chickpea salad. Tuna wraps are also a great idea. And for dinner, like having chicken thighs would be a good idea with roasted beans or like a lentil-based meal. And for snacks, I included options such as hard-boiled eggs, peanut butter, and like roasted chickpeas or edamame. I will say that hard-boiled eggs are really easy snack. I actually eat them, I meal prep them a lot. Roasted chickpeas are also really great, and it's really fun to experiment with different seasonings. So oftentimes I'll make this and I'll like switch up the seasonings, and I'll add like tahini sometimes or different seasonings I'll buy. So they always taste different, and they are a very nutritious, crunchy, great addition. These are more ideas for breakfast. So the next 3 slides, I included like high protein ideas for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner. So for example, like I included a Greek yogurt bowl. 1 cup of Greek yogurt is actually 20 grams of protein, which is a lot. And Greek yogurt is so great for you with also providing so much great healthy prebiotics, probiotics. It's really great for your gut. And I included eggs with avocado toast, protein oats. Like if people are inclined to add in like protein powder to their oats, that's a great idea. I've done that before. Sometimes I'll make overnight oats, and then I'll add in 1 scoop of my like Orgain, the vanilla protein powder, and then the next morning it's all ready. It's perfect. And then I'll even add chia seeds sometimes, and that really helps keep me full throughout the day. Cottage cheese is also a great idea, and tofu breakfast scrambles are also really great for people who may not eat eggs. Some protein-packed lunch ideas are like a grilled chicken sandwich, a tuna and chickpea salad, as I previously mentioned, different wraps, lentil soups, and tempeh. Tempeh has a lot of protein too and is a great source for vegetarians or vegans. It's also very easy to cook, and it's great for like changing up the seasonings too. It's a great base. Some protein-rich dinner ideas are salmon and lentils, and like, so for example, a 3-ounce salmon is a typical serving size, that's 22 grams. And as we saw earlier, a portion size is just the size of our palm. So that's why like keeping in mind the portion sizes are important, because then we get a gauge on the actual amount of protein we're really getting. And lean beef is also a really good idea with a great amount of protein. Chickpea curry is also another idea. Sometimes even like combining these two together, like the chickpeas and Greek yogurt, offers like a really great amount of protein. So does shrimp tacos and a baked tofu bowl. I just thought that including these recipes ideas with the exact like estimated protein would be really helpful, because like recipes are really helpful. Like when we see these on blogs and on like the New York Times, like it's really helpful to see like those types of recipes that are like protein packed, but it's sometimes like it's not as helpful to see all these ideas without seeing the actual content and the reason why these specific recipes are being suggested. So that's why I really wanted to like break it down with, although these are like general recipe ideas, I thought it would be helpful to break it down with like very specific like numerical protein estimations. I also went around looking around the internet and was looking for different resources, like different nutrition related blogs that could be helpful for you all. I found a really great blog called The Oncology Dietitian, and she has so many different types of like myth busting facts she breaks down when it comes to nutrition and just understanding like whole foods, balancing our meals, and breaking down different types of like intermittent fasting, or like the way that we go about balancing our meals throughout the day. So her blog was super interesting, and there's actually a post about protein that I believe I cited in one of the other previous slides. And there's another really good, I'm sorry, I realized that the two links are the same. There's another really good blog called Good Food is Good Medicine. And this blog really prioritizes whole foods and breaks down, similarly to the Oncology Dietitian, a lot of myths that we are constantly surrounded with in the nutrition world. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you all so much.
You have a couple of questions in the chat.
Oh, sure. Okay. Let's see. Oh, peanut butter powder. Okay. This is a great question. So I actually used to take peanut butter powder. I don't know if any of you are familiar with PB2. It's a powder that's sold, they sell it in bulk too at Costco. It's super easy to like mix in and integrate into your meals. It's basically just a powder consistency that is like majority of all the protein, and this powder takes away a lot of like the other like fat that's like in actual peanut butter. It's really helpful. I used to have it a lot. I think the nutritional content in it is really great for people who are trying to prioritize protein without also, I guess, getting in a lot of the fat that comes with like peanut butter spread. Sometimes I will take that protein powder and I'll actually mix it into my Greek yogurt. So it becomes like a really good peanut butter flavored Greek yogurt. And then sometimes I'll put it in the freezer for a little bit, so it has like a froyo type of consistency. So when it comes to protein peanut butter powder. It's really easy to add into like breakfast, like adding into overnight oats, adding into a Greek yogurt bowl, or also just incorporating it into like a healthy sweet treat, like after dinner, such as like the frozen yogurt, peanut butter dessert thing that I used to make. Uh, is whole fat dairy okay versus low fat dairy to keep someone full? Whole eggs versus egg whites. Okay, great question. So it actually in my nutrition class this past spring, we had a discussion about whole fat versus low fat dairy. And one of my professors, obviously a lot of nutritionists have different opinions too. One of my professors, though, really covered all of the benefits of going whole fat dairy. So after I took her course, instead of buying the 0% fat Greek yogurt, I actually switched to the whole fat, like 2% Greek yogurt from everything I learned from her. In my class, we really went over the benefits of having like healthy fats and also understanding that sometimes no fat slash low fat dairy options have a lot of sodium. So instead of like having a lot of the fat, instead companies just add in a lot more salt to still give it like flavor and for other reasons. And so sometimes having an like an excess or like an abundant amount of salt in a 0% option is actually worse than having just the original full fat option. And when it comes to whole eggs versus egg whites, that's also a really good question. I think it's really important to find a balance. Sometimes, like, it's really great to have a whole egg because the yolk itself has so many nutrients that sometimes we are unaware of. For example, recently I learned how important egg yolks are for brain health. Like egg yolks specifically have a lot of choline in them, which is, I think, one of the forms of vitamin B. And it's really great for our brains. And so that's why I usually prefer taking the whole egg, but then sometimes I believe that like one of the recommendations from the American Heart Association is to have like maximum or try to have like whole eggs a day, I mean a week. So not to have like too many for I guess the cholesterol content. And so that's why finding a balance between like having the whole egg and having egg whites is great because when you're having the egg white, you're getting the protein. And then when you're having the whole egg, you're getting the protein. And then on top of that, you're getting all the other types of really great nutrients that really help you stay full throughout the day as well.
So what determines our what shape our body is in and if we need more protein or if we need more whatever? Does a blood profile answer all those questions? And then who does that? Is it a nutritionist that we find that does that?
Good question. So yes, it is really hard to know whether or not we are getting adequate protein. I am not entirely sure if a blood test can tell somebody if they are getting an adequate amount. And that's why I think this topic is really hard for people to understand because everybody's body is so different, and also there are general guidelines. Um, I think going to a nutritionist would be the most beneficial for understanding if we're getting protein, like the adequate amount, but I think the guidelines are super helpful. And so basically, like earlier, I went over like the 0.8 gram per every kilogram of body weight recommendation for a sedentary adult. And that increases when you like as an adult like exercises more, or if they're going through treatments that can maybe potentially weaken their muscles or their immune system. So I think that general guideline is what I've found online to be the most helpful, but obviously getting personalized health tests and assessments would be more specific and better.
And that varies, it has varies with treatment or varies with age or varies with the week or
Yeah, yeah, it does. It does vary. And so I think that's why with all the variation, it's helpful to keep the general guidelines in mind, and also just to continue monitoring how we feel and how we are doing with our bodies day to day.
And just to piggyback on that, there are dietitians and nutritionists that are on staff throughout Mount Sinai that are available within the cancer center and in the general health system that take a variety of insurances. So you can speak with your oncologist or with your primary care doctor about a referral to a nutritionist or dietitian that would be covered by insurance. I know there are outside ones as well, but obviously, given that you all are cancer, patients and survivors, I do think it's very important to go to someone who has knowledge about that and isn't just kind of giving recommendations, generally, and is has knowledgeable about the oncology community.
right. Thanks. What's the difference between a nutritionist and a dietitian?
It has to do with the experience and license. So, every state has different types of regulations on who can be a nutritionist and who can be a dietitian, but ultimately it comes down to the training. Dietitians have more training, especially in like hospital settings and clinical settings, and nutritionists don't have that type of training.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it also is about like the amount of hours too. So there's different criteria for either.
The
I have
chat.
a question. I recently tried to donate blood and they turned me away saying that my iron levels were too low. And I know that growing up, you always heard that you should eat liver for that. I am vegetarian, so I'm not going to eat liver, but I was wondering if you had any recommendations if about dietary, not supplements, but food wise. And if I should even think about checking with my doctor that I should be taking like an iron pill of some sort.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I would definitely recommend checking with your doctor about the iron pills. In my nutrition courses, we've learned a lot about like iron supplementation and just about the importance of like really checking with like blood tests to make sure you need an iron supplementation. But I think a lot of like dark green leafy veggies, those have a lot of great iron content. And I also believe that some of the like high protein seafood options like sardines, I believe those also have a good amount of iron too in them. Okay. Should we eat pasteurized eggs? Okay, that's a really great question. From my experience and knowledge, I have not really covered pasteurized eggs. Um, so because of that, unfortunately, I don't think I've covered it really in any of my classes, so I don't believe I'd be like qualified to really talk about it. So I'll skip to the next one. I've lost a lot of weight, and the dietitian recommends protein and calories in my diet, along with organic protein powder. Oh, pasta, yes. Um, okay, yes. So pasta is a great option. There are also like protein pastas. I think one really helpful food for weight gain could be like nut-based spreads, such as peanut butter. I think pasta is a great idea. But I think it's also important to keep in mind that while pasta has a lot of carbohydrates, nut butters and other types of like high protein, high fatty options like provide additional nutrients too. So instead of having like peanut butter in this case, like one could have like peanut butter powder, one could have peanut butter because it has high protein, it has a lot of healthy fats, it has a lot of nutrients, and like just like prioritizing like peanut butter, like nuts in general could really be a great option. for example, like I have a lot of walnuts and almonds every day in the morning because walnuts really have they're good for your brain. They have good fats, good omega-3s. They help keep you full. Have a good source of protein, so do almonds. Um, and yeah, so healthy oils for weight gain is actually really good because um, these types of oils, especially when it comes to nuts, just have like an array of nutrients that you're getting along with the fat. So instead of like having a lot of pasta, if somebody has like a lot of nuts, like they're getting so many other types of healthy proteins and omega-3s that are really good for our like brains and like bodies.
What is the difference just in terms of a protein source between tofu, tempeh, and seitan?
Oh, great question. I'm pretty sure tofu has a great protein source compared to tempeh. I've actually never had seitan before.
Very
Uh,
tasty. It was
oh,
delicious.
okay, good. Yeah, so that I don't know about, but tempeh and tofu are great protein options. I know that tofu for a fact is like really easy as a protein option. It's also easier to prepare. Um, yeah, off the top of my head, I'm not sure about the protein content for like tempeh or seitan, but I definitely would be happy to look into that.
Oh. And someone is asking you actually, what is tempeh?
Yeah.
Oh,
Also, seitan is much harder to digest, Rachel.
Is it?
It's a gluten. It's a wheat gluten, and it's much harder to
Interesting.
digest. So I think a lot of this, tofu is also hard to digest, but seitan in itself is a wheat gluten. So
Interesting.
anybody that's gluten free would have a really hard time.
okay. Yeah. So tempeh is actually made up of fermented soybeans, and sometimes they'll add in like rice or barley. So it's basically a source of soy protein.
Um, and I had another question too. Just in terms of like chicken or poultry, is the protein similar for both white and dark meat? I know that obviously I think that dark meat is higher in fat, but I'm wondering if the protein content is similar.
Um, I I actually am not sure about that. I'm actually pescatarian, so I don't know much about meat. But let's see. I actually just Googled it and it said that the protein content is actually different. So white meat typically contains more protein than dark meat. So, for example, a 3 ounce serving of white chicken breast contains about 26 grams of protein, while the same serving for dark meat would contain about 23. So they are relatively similar, but it looks like there is a slight difference.
Interesting. It's good to know. And would you mind just going over again for the protein powders, those different ingredients? Because some of them I hadn't heard of. The is it casein? Or I wasn't sure exactly what that is. Can you just talk about not just the protein, but what they are, what the actual um, kind of sources are? Because I thought that was really that was interesting. And when they say, even things like pea protein, I did not know that peas had protein. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I think well, pea protein I believe is relatively new. Casein is a derivative from whey. It's part of dairy, so this one would be not as friendly for like people who are lactose intolerant. But I believe that it is very similar to whey, and pea protein is really helpful for vegetarians. Let's see. I believe that there's also different types of veggie-based protein powders too that are really great for vegetarians. I'll go to the next slide. Yeah, so this is the one that I actually take. This is an organic, like veggie plant-based protein that has 21 grams of plant protein. I actually chose this after doing a lot of research because their ingredient list has a lot of good options and not that many potentially harmful ingredients. I've never tried whey protein, but after like researching it a lot, it looks like there's a lot of benefits to having whey protein. There's also different types of plant-based ones that are made from like combinations of plants or soy. But pea protein is a very common type of like protein supplementation for especially vegetarians.
Do you have a favorite smoothie recipe? I know that at one point we did go through in a past presentation, but related to this, do you have kind of a favorite? Because it is such an easy way to kind of, grab and go. If you could talk about that a bit.
Yeah. So usually I find it easiest to add in my protein powder to overnight oats because it's just like very easy to scoop in a powder and put it in the fridge and the next day like have a little bit of a flavorful oatmeal. But usually when I do make a smoothie, I'll choose a cauliflower base. So sometimes I'll cut up frozen cauliflower. I'll get cauliflower, freeze it, and then I'll use that as a base because cauliflower offers a good like texture without adding too much flavor, especially with like the protein powder. And so sometimes like adding in a banana is too sweet. So I'll usually add cauliflower, the protein powder, and then sometimes I'll add in like blueberries to get like my antioxidants, maybe some chia seeds, and usually I'll stick with the berries. I'll do cauliflower, berries, and protein powder with almond milk. I always go for almond milk over water just because it has a little bit more protein and nutrients. Sometimes I'll turn it into like a veggie-based green healthy smoothie where I'll add in my protein powder. I'll use frozen zucchini because frozen zucchini also does not really influence the taste that much. It really helps create that thick cauliflower-like texture, and that's really great to add in. So I'll add in zucchini, and then maybe I'll add in like a couple of greens with like pineapple. The pineapple adds in like a really nice sweet flavor like when trying to balance out a like green-based smoothie. So I've found that to be like really great for flavor.
Someone's asking you about specific protein. Actually, there's a couple more questions in the comments in the chat.
Oh yeah. Orgain protein powder, vanilla or chocolate at Trader Joe's. I actually have tried both. I really like the vanilla one. They also sell this, I believe, at Costco and maybe Target. Yeah, flax seeds are really great. I actually one of my favorite things to buy from Trader Joe's are those Norwegian crisp crackers, those grain and seed crackers. I actually have one I try to have one every day because that one single cracker has so many seeds. It has like sunflower seeds, chia, like it's just a mixture and it's really crunchy and also great to like dip in anything or even spread onto something. So sometimes I'll have that. And then I'll just like mash an avocado and then put that on top with some lemon. And that's really good because I'm getting like healthy fats and also different nutrients from the different seeds. So that's a really easy snack idea for people. Sometimes I'll do that and then I'll have like a boiled egg and I'll kind of just like mash that on top. And those are really great options because I think sometimes incorporating seeds into our diet is a little bit difficult, but choosing to have them through like those cracker options are a really good idea.
Sounds like you could because I was wondering the sardine spread that you were talking about, what to eat that on. That sounds like that could be a high-powered combo too.
Yeah, and Trader Joe's, they also have mini toasts. So they have like these little tiny toast crackers that go really well with the sardine dip. Yeah.
You have another question in the chat.
Stomach-friendly protein sources. I have a lot of gastritis after treatment. I found it digestible proteins. Okay, great question. Let's see. I would say that a really stomach-friendly protein source would probably be Greek yogurt or like cottage cheese. The reason why I would suggest Greek yogurt is because it has a lot of prebiotics and prebiotics, probiotics. So while like you're getting a lot of protein, you're also getting really good like healthy bacteria and healthy food to feed your bacteria in your gut. So that could be really helpful. One of my family members has had gastritis and actually healed it through sauerkraut. My aunt actually had sauerkraut like every single day for a year. And after a year, her gastritis was entirely gone. And before the sauerkraut, had it for like 2 years. So that was really interesting for me to hear about. And I think sauerkraut is really good for our guts. Unfortunately, it does not have a lot of protein, but it's really good for our guts. Yes. Well, you can eat sauerkraut straight up. I actually sometimes do eat it straight up. It's kind of, it's good sometimes when like putting it in like a coleslaw type of dish, like instead of like you could add it to coleslaw. Sometimes I will like just add it as a side to my meal, or I'll add it into salads, or if I make like a homemade version of like a grain bowl or like a Buddha bowl, I'll add sauerkraut in there. I think just the aspect of it being fermented is really, really good for our gut.
I think we're about out of time. This was super helpful. I feel like it was, there was such incredibly relevant information and very easy takeaways. I love the section, especially on kind of the easy meal planning and sort of super simple recipes, mixing the idea of, putting even like the peanut butter powder into Greek yogurt to give it that extra boost. Things like that are so helpful. You're getting some good feedback in the chat, and again, you clearly put a huge amount of effort into this presentation. I just want to mention that the presentation itself, Annika has sent me the slides, so we can attach that to the recording of this. So anyone who then wants to go, there's a lag time for when things get edited and go into the video library, but once it is placed up there, we can put the slides with it, so you can have all of the links and the charts. I'm especially interested in seeing that one chart that was kind of small, and being able to blow that up and check it out separately. If anyone wants any of these specific slides sent to them, just reach out via email at thewoman2woman@mountsinai.org, and I can share those slides in the meantime. Thank you so much. I'm going to go have lunch now and make sure that I have my protein intake in there, because I have some great ideas about how to get it done. And thank you so much for everything. Thank you all for participating. Such great, thoughtful questions. This was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Rachel.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.